It gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to you all for our much anticipated In Conversation With event. This occasion holds special significance because it not only aligns with the esteemed series of events organised by the Girls' Day School Trust, but it also serves as the first instalment of our own In Conversation series. Today, we have the privilege of welcoming Elizabeth Wilcox, a distinguished alumna from Howell's class of 2020 and a Trailblazer finalist in the prestigious GDST's Alumna of the Year competition in 2022. Elizabeth's journey since her time at Howell's has been nothing short of inspirational, and we're delighted to have her here speaking with Jane Wilkes, our Head of Library and College Careers Advisor, who worked very closely with her during her time in the college. I know that this discussion will give you valuable insights into Elizabeth's remarkable career trajectory and also offer some glimpses into her time here at Howell's. So, without further ado, enjoy the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Holly. So before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Elizabeth, who I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back to Howell's today. So Elizabeth completed her studies with us in Howell's in the summer of 2020. So she was part of the cohort of A-level students whose education faced probably the most challenging and immediate disruption when their examinations were cancelled due to the pandemic. In fact, I was just saying to Elizabeth just now, the last time we were actually stood in this hall together was when that announcement was made, wasn't it? And it was quite a day, wasn't it? By this point, Elizabeth had applied for, and as we now know, was ultimately successful in being awarded a degree apprenticeship with world-renowned investment bank JP Morgan on their fast-track programme based in their headquarters in Canary Wharf. As well as working with JP Morgan's top team of investment bankers on real-world projects, Elizabeth undertook a BSc and applied finance at Exeter University. After only 18 months, Elizabeth moved into a trading, consulting and advisory front office role at JP Morgan, and I'm not surprised but very pleased to say she's doing extremely well still in her career. Elizabeth is experiencing the triumphs and challenges of being a young woman adapting to the world of work in a corporate investment bank after joining the industry at just 18 years old. Just 18 years old as well, wasn't it? Your birthday was very, very near to that. And being the youngest woman on the trading floor, quite an achievement. We are so proud of you. On a personal note, I am going to say that Elizabeth to this day stands out in my career as a post-18 careers advisor as one of the most conscientious and well-prepared candidates I've ever interviewed. A testament to doing the research, reflecting on her own skills and qualities, and giving 100% to everything she put her mind to. I can honestly say that the last mock interview we had in preparation for your JP Morgan final interview, you left the room, Mrs. Richards and I looked at one another, and we went, wow, she's going to knock it out of the park. She was amazing. So I have a whole bank of questions to ask you. Hopefully we'll get through as many as possible, and I hope we have time for our audience to ask some questions as well. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your story. Can you tell me about your time at Howell's? What were your favourite subjects? What did you go on to study at A-level? And what extracurricular things did you get involved in college?
So I first joined Howell's when I was starting my GCSEs. Mm-hmm. So I was here for 4 years in total. When I first started my GCSEs, absolutely loved sciences. My highest grade at GCSE was biology, then went on to do biology, chemistry, economics and business originally as A-level. Although midway through year 12, I ended up switching into economics, ICT and business. That was my final choice for A-levels. Really, really enjoyed those subjects. And then alongside that was also the business studies and economics prefect. Really, really enjoyed that. I don't know if it's still up, but I made the meme door in one of the business labs. I don't know if that's still there. But I also did Amnesty as well, which was brilliant for the cookies. I'm not saying that's the only reason I was there. But yeah, also very much enjoyed that alongside my studies.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that you changed direction a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So originally I wanted to do medicine, like my entire GCSEs. I was like headstrong. I even had, a week of resource board, had relevant work experience, very much decided that I was going to do medicine. And then I ended up midway through year 12, was very much not really performing the way I should do. I was chemistry predominantly for what would be a competitive medical application, and ended up, I'm not going to say an intervention, but there was a very key meeting where I was sat down with Mrs. Jowett, yourself and Miss Davis, and we were like, maybe this is not where you should be. And I ended up being kind of redirected towards banking and finance as a possible career. And since then, I've very much taken to it like a fish to water. Very much enjoyed it, and 100% was the right call. It was a difficult one at the time. I remember how difficult that conversation was. But definitely that redirect, and it was a good thing to catch when I did.
Yeah, fantastic. And then moving on to thinking about university and degree apprenticeships, because college experience goes very quickly, doesn't it? So after you'd made that decision to pivot and change your A-level subjects, you went on to apply for a degree apprenticeship. Can you tell us why you chose to go down this route and the other pathways that you chose as well? What were you looking for in your post-18 experience?
I was what my friends called very boring at the time. So I wasn't going to uni for like the social and the parties. I was going to uni for the qualification to get a job. Always very, very career focused when it came to university. And I saw a degree apprenticeship as an opportunity to fast track that process and have an opportunity to develop the real world experience alongside relevant qualifications, alongside a degree. It just seemed like the perfect bundle. Also offered me an opportunity to move out at 18 and go live in London, which was so exciting, and something I really, really wanted to do. So it's kind of everything I looked for from a post-university experience, but at 18. So very much to me was a bit of a no-brainer. And I've also loved seeing an application of the academics in real world. Very much enjoy being hands-on, and I think a purely academic degree definitely wasn't the right choice for me.
And the application process, not straightforward, is it? Can you talk me through what the process actually involves? Was it challenging? Was it competitive?
Very competitive. Obviously, it's JP Morgan. It does attract the brightest minds in the nation. But the application process itself was not too bad. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting 17 rounds of interviews with board directors. They probably changed it nowadays. I'm going to caveat this. But for me, I ended up doing an interview. The first stage was with Exeter University. So that was a telephone interview. And then from there, I went on to do an assessment centre at their Bank Street office. Then after that, I had to do an insight evening, also in Bank Street, which was lovely to just get to see the building and be in London. And then from there, it was the final stage was a higher view interview, which was one of those automated interviews where the question pops up and then you have to answer as a video. Personally, I very struggled with that. Very much enjoy working and be able to see somebody in an interview and work with somebody instead of the question. But I ended up leaving that interview going, I've not got it. Not got it, there's no way. Unfortunately, very much luckily was wrong. But yes, I struggled a bit with that one, but the rest of it I really enjoyed.
How did you go about narrowing it down to JP Morgan, as that was your target place you wanted to work?
So for me, it was obviously JP Morgan's the forefront of investment banking when it comes to technological advances, and some of the trading systems they work with are first class in the world. But then more from an academic scheme perspective, there was an opportunity to develop a degree. And that was something that I didn't want to hold me back later on in life should I choose to leave the company that I've decided to go for the apprenticeship with. I didn't want to be held back by not having that degree later on in career. And JP Morgan very much set you up with not only the degree, but multiple additional qualifications alongside that. So definitely was the first choice.
And the application process, you've touched upon a bit of the sort of interview and selection process. How did you actually go about sort of finding that opportunity? You were you used your own initiative, didn't you, to look into these things? But what other sort of resources did you use to find out what was out there for you at 18?
So UCAS actually have a resource when it comes to apprenticeships. I'm sure that's a lot more advanced now than it was when I was in school. And that was like when I was there, it was a PDF file, and you can literally just search through and go, I want to do this subject here. And there was also Google, a lot of Google, and just sticking in and going, I want to do this degree. But yeah, there was nothing more advanced than that.
So you do need to use your initiative,
yes.
don't you? You need to get stuck in. And telling us a little bit about the apprenticeship, actually, when you started that then, and how the degree at Exeter fits in with your practical work at JP Morgan. Is there such a thing of what a typical working week looked like for you when you first started? What are your key duties and responsibilities?
So I started originally in a trade support role. So it was about 4 years ago that I was in that, so I can't fully remember that role. So I'll go current working week for me today. So I currently work on a TA desk. So I'm sat on a trading desk, don't hold any of my own risk, don't hold any of my own clients. But it's a lot of the booking process. You get very hands-on with the bookings, which I absolutely love. And it's so Monday, Tuesday I'm in office, and that Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday I'm in office. My Wednesday is my study day for my university. And very much I sit on desk at 8:30, get in, obviously market opens for equities at 8:30, so walk straight into bookings that have come in overnight to be placed as soon as the exchange opens. And then from there until 6:30, I'm still booking. And it's a whole day. Sometimes there's little pauses where I get an opportunity to work on other projects. I'm quite lucky my team's very supportive of my academics. So if I get a spare hour, I can do a little bit of uni during my working day, which is lovely. But then when it comes to my study day, it's a variety of in-person lectures. The lecturers actually come up from Exeter University to the office in Canary, which is really, really lovely. And then also we do some online webinars sometimes as well, and that's my one day to focus on academics. So we do a degree, so it's a level 6 qualification, and then also BSc. And then I'm working towards my CFA level 1, but there's a variety of different professional qualifications then changed the scheme too, as of current. But there's very much, you come out with not just a degree, but the work experience and the qualifications and the networking opportunities. It's just very well-rounded in terms of experience.
So would you say you have to be a certain kind of person to be able to balance all of those commitments?
Definitely, very determined, very resilient. There's a lot of time management. My first week when I did an induction, they were like, time management's the most important thing, which I didn't really understand until probably about week 3. But there was also a very interesting theory that was mentioned on, instead of just time management, also energy management as well. So making sure that you're staying engaged in things in your personal life so that then you're energised when it comes to your working life, and not seeing your personal life as very separate from your working. The two have to work together in order to allow you to work at your peak performance.
Fantastic. And thinking about your role today, this is going to be a tough question, I know. What does a great day look like for you, and what does a challenging day look like for you?
So a great day for me, it's a term in banking called being caught in the flow. And it's when there's tons of trades going in, and we've got like either 4 or 6 screens on the trading floor, and there's something else going on each screen, and people are pinging you, and you've got someone shouting at you down the floor, and everything's very hectic. For me, a great day is being caught in all of this and being on top of it all. And it's a feeling like no other, and it's a reason why I work in banking, is there's being able to organise the chaos, and I love it so much. And for me, a challenging day, I think, would be the days when it's a bit slower, and trying to keep engaged and keep on top of things, and also be performing at your best when it's a bit slower. I'm someone who very much, as bad as it is to admit, I do thrive in the chaos of trading. That's why I do absolutely love my role.
It sounds like you like to keep incredibly busy.
Yes.
And what about some of your sort of key highlights that you've experienced over the last 4 years?
So it's related to work, but a little bit differently. So I did a talk with the GDST, and this was, I think, probably about 2 years into my career. I ended up doing a talk with this girl, and she pulled me aside, I think, for a Q&A session on Zoom. And she had a few questions, and she went, loved hearing you talk, would love to work in banking, but I can't do it. I went, would you mind explaining why? She went, I've got dyslexia, could never work in banking. I was like, I also have dyslexia. That's not something that can stop you. Neurodivergency is accepted in firms. The amount of support that I've received internally, there's training programs that you can go on to help you better understand your neurodivergency, that the firm very much adapts things to work with you. So I think it was definitely a key highlight to be able to change one's perspective. She's now gone on to study finance at university and is hoping to go into banking.
So you joined us in 2016, all those years back. How do you think your time at Howell's and school and college impacted how you work in JP Morgan today?
The work ethic, 100%. The work ethic and also the academic focus. Not to say that my old school wasn't academically focused, but it's not the same as Howell's. And I think the academics very much set me up in my career and taught me what's needed in order to succeed. I definitely would not have the work ethic I do without the school.
That's very good to hear. What do you think, I mean, you can be honest with us, what do you think can be done to encourage more GDST students to pursue a career in the financial sector? Because there are amazing opportunities, aren't there? And I try to encourage students to consider the apprenticeship routes, but there's sometimes a little bit of reluctance to take the apprenticeship route rather than the traditional university route. What would you say to somebody considering going into the financial sector?
I like speaking to people. Finance is one of those most misunderstood industries. I think the media representation, what you see in movies and TV shows, although it's very dramatic and makes a great watch, isn't very true to the day-to-day. And it's also such a broad industry as well. There's so many different areas of banking, each of which require a different kind of person. I think just getting out there, learning more about what the industry looks like holistically, and then also getting to speak to individuals as well, and being curious, being able to ask questions and just understanding what's out there. Because I think a lot of people, especially market side, when they go into it, they go, oh, I want to be a trader. They're like, what about sales? And they go, haven't heard of that. Like, that's a very key role. And once you kind of broaden people's ideas and broaden their horizons and scopes, you find what they actually look for from a role very rarely aligns with trading. So I think definitely just kind of education about what the industry looks like and getting to speak to key professionals.
And what about navigating the transition from being a student, living at home, to moving up to London, starting your work, your career and your studies? What advice would you have for somebody at 18 navigating that transition?
I think for me it was an opportunity to very much take a step towards what I was looking for from life. And I think it's very easy to kind of get overwhelmed and intimidated by, oh, there's a whole world in front of me. But you don't have to get everything right at 18. There's a lot of people that I know have done a degree that maybe hasn't necessarily directly translated into a role that they then went into. But you don't have to have everything figured out at 18. It's okay to make mistakes. More see it as an opportunity to step closer to what you want from life. Very philosophical there, I know.
No, that's really good to hear that it's a journey, isn't it? And you take detours and, you know, side steps and things like that. It's wonderful. I'm going to ask you a difficult question, but I think it's a really important one that we all sort of think about. And I think I want to frame it in the way that it's actually a huge learning experience. Have you ever experienced failure? And if so, how did you overcome it and how did you move through it?
I think for me, what I would always use I saw it as a failure at the time, but in hindsight, I see it as an opportunity, was that career pivot from medicine. I was heartbroken at the time. It was what had kept me motivated through my GCSEs, that I was going to be a doctor. And even when I was on work experience, I was so motivated to go towards medicine. To then switch over into a different industry, I very much felt like it was a failure. And now I see it as an opportunity. And I think it's about switching perspective and it's seeing things as an opportunity. Instead of going, oh, I'm not great at this, it's a weakness, go, how do I turn that into a strength? How do I play this into something that is an opportunity and a positive instead of getting caught up in the negativity? Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. But once you've cracked it, it's definitely sets you up well for life.
And has that carried forward to your experience in your career as well? Have you had certain challenges that you've looked at as opportunities now, reframing them with that positive mindset?
Completely.
Yeah.
Every single role that you transition into is always going to be a challenge. And some moves will be easier than others, but there's definitely trying to look at things as maybe this situation isn't 100% ideal, but how do I translate this into something that's going to benefit me as much as possible moving forward? And just that mind shift change from negativity to opportunity is very beneficial.
And with the apprenticeships, the apprentices that are coming through now behind you, are you able to share that wisdom with them? Do you look to offer that mentoring role with them as well?
I mentor quite a few of them. So at least once a week I'm in the coffee shop with the various different apprentices. So there's so much, as well as kind of the academic side of things, there's also just like life advice of not just how does the printer work, but also one of those, you might want to speak to your line manager about that. They're not going to bite your head off. They actually support you, shockingly. But just being able to teach somebody the lessons that you wish that you had at the time. I know 90% of what I say is not going to stick, but that 10% is worth it.
Do you feel, and this is something lots of students who have come back to Howell's have said, that actually that putting your hand up and asking for help and reaching out is something that Howell's really brought them? Is that something that you felt that you experienced here?
Definitely. There was also the one thing that I had with the teachers was always an opportunity that if you were stuck on something, you could go, can I catch you at lunch? Or can I do one of the drop-in sessions? Or there was always help there if you asked for it, which I've got a lot of friends that have come from schools that maybe didn't have that level of support. And then trying to explain to them, if you turn around to your line manager and you ask, that support's there. So it just, to me as a Howell's girl, just seemed like of course it's there. But yeah.
And you touched upon sort of sharing life skills as well and life advice. So some of our young people that are considering the apprenticeship route sometimes worry that they're going to miss out on the social life, the traditional university experience, that they're not going to meet new people and start new hobbies and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your life in London and what you enjoy doing outside of work?
So first point's mildly related to work, but I'm actually the captain of the JP Morgan polo team. Oh wow. I know. Brilliant fun. Allows for networking across multiple different industries. So we currently have matches set up with the Army, the RAF and the Navy, which getting involved with the forces has been brilliant to offer support. There's networking opportunities there and friendship opportunities. And then I joined a members club as well. So there's like dinners that you can go to as solo and you end up meeting people there, which is great fun. There's also a lot of the Howell's girls have come to London. So I think
you've been instrumental in some of that.
Yes, I may have corrupted a few. But yes, there's definitely a lot of social opportunities. And I think I've not to say that university is not a great option for a lot of people, but I have a lot of friends that have gone to university expecting that social aspect that just hasn't been there. So I wouldn't say that there's any loss of social life. Also, you're in a cohort with other apprentices, you're in a city, you'll meet people and make friends. I understand it would be intimidating, but it's definitely, I wouldn't say my social life is any more lacking than my friends that went to university.
I'm sure it's not. And thinking back to completing your GCSE examinations, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self now, looking to the future, of where you might see yourself in 10 years' time and how you might get there?
So when it comes to GCSEs, there was a piece of advice that my mum gave me, who I'm smiling at because she sat just there. And it was, no one can ever take your academics away from you. No one can ever take your qualifications. It's your first opportunity to shine and prove who you are. And if you look at things as an opportunity and you begin to chase success instead of being scared of failure, you'll find you'll look at things a lot more positively and perform a lot better because of that. And then in terms of taking that forward in the next 10 years, you will always look back on your GCSEs and it will always never be as scary as when you were doing them. I'm only like 6 years away from it, I think. But yeah, it's definitely look back at it and go, I got in a lot of stress over that and it wasn't that bad.
Very good advice. And we're really grateful for you coming back to Howell to talk to us today. And you've done several events like this with us in Howell, haven't you? A lot of them been online over the past few years or so. What does coming back and being part of Howell's and the GDST network mean to you?
It very much feels like being part of a family. There's always a place that I can come back to. There's always friendly faces. There's always a support network there should I need it. And the friends that I've made here are lifelong friends. They're more like sisters than friends. And knowing there's a wider community, not only within Howell's, but also the GDST. There's Karen Kimura, there's GDST head office. There's always opportunities there. And it very much, feels like home.
Good. It's lovely to welcome you back as well. And as we're talking about Howell's and the GDST networks, are you in touch with friends from Howell's and the GDST? Do you keep regular contact with them?
So I've got 3 Howell's girls currently in London. So Alice, Ellie and Snarly. We've got a little Howell's girl club going on. We regularly do dinner parties, which is good fun. And then also just wider GDST. There's a lot of times that I'll be introduced to somebody and they'll go, oh, I went to an all-girls school. And I'll go, oh, as did I. Was yours GDST by any chance? And there's just automatically a connection there and an opportunity to get to know somebody on a deeper level. The second question is always, oh, how amazing is Karen Kimura? Everyone knows Karen Kimura. Any GDST girl you'll ever meet knows her, which is brilliant. But it's just nice to have that kind of on the same level understanding with a lot of people.
How important is that networking to your career and to your social life in London as well?
It is the most important thing. It is, the saying goes, it is not what you know, it is who you know. And be it from a very real situation of someone kind of going, oh, have you thought about this as a career path? I think this would be great for you. I can make an introduction to someone that's hiring, and that very literal support. There's also more of a soft support as well. And if I've been in that situation, what I would do is this. And it's lovely to just have a lot of people around you that have been in a similar situation and can give you life advice. They know what they're talking about. But also to have other girls around you that maybe don't know what they're doing and are all still trying to figure out their lives as well. It's nice to know that you're not alone on your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's an absolute joy to welcome you back. It's really lovely to see you. And thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise. I'm really hopeful that Elizabeth's going to spend the next sort of 10, 15 minutes and we'll have a little bit of a networking session ourselves. So if you are got any burning questions in your mind, please do come up and say hello. Elizabeth is so generous with her time and her expertise. And as she said, networking is everything, isn't it? Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
To everyone who has joined us, I hope you have found this conversation very interesting and valuable. And if you'd like to know more about future In Conversation events, then please do subscribe to the channel.